Hello. In this lecture, we are going to talk about Wittgenstein's Tractatus Logico-Philosophicus, particularly his idea of picture theory. Wittgenstein wrote his Tractatus Logico-Philosophicus, which can be translated in English as Logical Philosophical Treatise, while he was serving with the Austrian army during the First World War, and he continued writing it while he was a prisoner of war in Italy. The idea of this book emerged from his interest in the analysis of complex sentences into symbolic components. His claim was quite simple. If a proto-sign was discovered to represent the universal form of the general proposition, then such a sign would somehow also demonstrate the logical structure underlying language, that which enables language to describe a reality which is apparently indifferent to our description of it. His conclusion that the relational form which coordinates thought, language, and the world was pictorial in nature, and this gives foundation for his logical philosophical treatise. It is important to note that the picture theory did not just mean visual images. The theory also incorporated language, music, art, and engineering. Primarily, Wittgenstein relied on engineering, on projection drawing, as the basis for the picture theory, because it seemed like the easiest way to explain his ideas. His main objective in creating the Tractatus was to determine the limit of expression of thought and establish the notion of the projective form in his picture theory by making a logical correspondence between language and reality. The picture theory, therefore, is an attempt to make an explicit distinction between what can be said and what can be shown. The basic idea of the theory says that the function of language is to allow us to picture things. Wittgenstein was fascinated with the idea of how to achieve pure realism through the means of visual, artistic, and language media. It is about using these media to create something about that which it resembles. Everything is based on the fact that observations are made of how paintings and photographs represent their subjects. It means that they have the properties of those objects, but they do not have the ability to be the same as those objects. Since anything can resemble a number of objects without being those objects, there is much that is open to interpretation, just like words used in sentences can have a lot of meanings. However, Wittgenstein did suggest that there had to be a logical connection between the reality and the picture projected of that reality. Going deeper into that idea of what can be said and what can be shown, many who have studied the picture theory believe that it is based on the analogy of depiction, where an engineering drawing is derived by means of projection from the object and the way in which language and thought is derived from the world around us. This analogy does not mean that the world is like the representation, but instead is based on an interpretation of what the artist or mechanical engineer sees from their perspective. This means that language or other forms of representation stand in a relationship to the objects that they represent. And this relationship is analogous to the relationship that subsists between pictures and objects. Wittgenstein's depiction of performance spoke about the ability to reconstruct an object from its representation, to reconstruct a thought from a sentence, and so on. It is important to emphasize here that what a picture means is independent of whether it is a truthful representation or not. What is more important is the idea that the lines in the diagram are related together in the way that mimics the way the things they correspond to are related. In this way, Wittgenstein made the distinction between showing and saying. It is important that pictures showed something instead of said something. Doing this through grammar, form, or logic within the human and natural languages. Instead of trying to interpret what the world appears to look like, Wittgenstein took it to the next level by trying to operate within the model and draw conclusions about properties in the world. Labeled the theory of description, he elucidates logically the essential situation when the languages describe the reality. This is where the thing is whether it keeps a proper or right relation to the reality. This involved actual mathematical calculations rather than simple depictions and moved the person toward graphical, statics, and dynamic models. In carrying this thought process over into the world of language, Wittgenstein then believed that a method could be constructed that enabled decisions related to ethical matters and other intangible ideas. Overall, Wittgenstein was looking to achieve a perfect language. His theory of language says that sentences work like pictures. Their purpose is also to picture possible situations. His philosophy was not concerned with mental pictures that come from language, but relied on a more abstract notion of a picture as something that either agrees or disagrees with any way the world might have been, and which says this is the way things actually are. In other words, for sentences to have sense, they cannot depend exclusively on the sense of other sentences. Ultimately, there must be elementary propositions which get their sense not from other sentences, but rather directly from the world. This other viewpoint on Wittgenstein's picture theory has become known as the form of life, which was about the general relationship of representation and conceivability. This invoked the idea that Wittgenstein proposed that humans try to live from the nature of the world rather than just imitating or depicting it. This would allow humans to understand the reality of life, which is currently unexplainable because it is hard to see directly. Going back to the original simplified idea about the theory, language then becomes a way for humans to get in touch and experience the true reality of life and nature. It is this idea of being connected to nature on another level that suggests that Wittgenstein's picture theory also included his ideas about and interest in the metaphysical. In fact, an Wittgensteinian scholar, Albert Levy, concluded that the Tractatus represented a picture of traditional metaphysical dualism. This is evident in his metaphor of the eye, in which it can see only that which is other than itself, as he says that from nothing in the field of sight can it be concluded that it is seen from an eye. In connection to the metaphysical beliefs, Wittgenstein took language, logic, world, and self to be coextensive and concluded the Tractatus by stating that anyone will truly understand the world once they move beyond the limited suggestions about the world. His comments at the end of Tractatus emphasized his belief that all philosophical reflection is meaningless. Wittgenstein illustrated the difference between the meaninglessness and what he was attempting to do in this book by showing his readers things instead of attempting to draw conclusions from them. In this way, his book concludes with his interest in the mystic and the metaphysical, taking the reader on a journey through his thoughts and creating pictures through the language he uses within the book to show the world instead of speaking about it. Thank you very much. Now we shall discuss the main ideas in Wittgenstein's philosophical investigations. At the time of his death, this text was still incomplete, and this was later published mainly by Anscombe and Rees in the year 1989, which later, of course, re-edited and published in the year 2009. In the beginning of the sections, he starts setting out the main themes and purposes of philosophical investigation. Wittgenstein starts out with the quote from St. Augustine, which discusses the learning of a language. The Augustinian account is taken as a paradigmatic example of bad philosophy that is lured into misunderstanding by ignoring the broader context and range of cases that actually characterize a phenomenon. Wittgenstein calls the network of practices and expectations surrounding the use of language with the term language games. This concept is Wittgenstein's primary tool throughout the rest of the work. He outlines a program of useful philosophical investigation based on understanding the dynamics of language games. To clarify the notion of language games, Wittgenstein discusses the concept of games generally. In doing so, he rejects the idea that concepts must be sharply defined to be useful or meaningful. To replace the analysis of concepts in terms of strict definitions, Wittgenstein introduces the idea of family resemblance. Within this scheme, examples of a concept such as a game need not all share a single feature in common. Instead, there is a network of overlapping similarities, as siblings may resemble one parent's nose and another's cheekbones, yet still resemble each other. In replacing the method of definition with his own, Wittgenstein discusses at length the definition by pointing. Importantly, he stresses the philosopher's recourse to pointing when discussing the function of language as misguided. They inevitably turn pointing into an invisible internal mental activity. This habit is a primary bad habit Wittgenstein will return to criticize again and again throughout philosophical investigations. In the latter part of the work, Wittgenstein turns to examine typical philosophical beliefs about the relationship between logic and language. Many philosophers, including Wittgenstein himself in his earlier work, took logic to specify a unique and exact way in which language relates to reality. However, Wittgenstein now rejects this view of the relationship between logic and language, where logicians such as Frege and Ramsay insist that logic tells us how to make language more exact and therefore better. Wittgenstein argues that language needs to be exact. Further, he argues that standards of exactness are not stable or universal as many logicians claim. Instead, how exact language needs to be and in what such exactness consists is determined by the relevant language game. What is the purpose of a given set of expressions and practices? How are these sets actually used? According to Wittgenstein, these are the only relevant questions. What philosophy must do is describe the rules of these language games. Wittgenstein then turns to a discussion of what rules are and what it means for a person to follow rules. Ultimately, he concludes that the rules of a language game are whatever the various players of the game collectively agree upon. To play a particular language game, to follow its rules, involves adhering to them blindly, which according to Wittgenstein is to do something simply because this is what people do. Building on the importance of language games and the explanation of following their rules, Wittgenstein examines the idea of private thought, language involving only one person who is not interacting with others. He concludes that a private language is not possible because there is no enforceable rule or standard and no agreed upon practices in which the alleged language can be embedded. With the basic elements of his system of examination in place, Wittgenstein considers a series of different practices that philosophers usually describe as mental activities. In each case, Wittgenstein argues that there is no intangible mental process that defines activities like meaning, expecting, wanting, wishing, reasoning, or calculating. Instead, he urges philosophers to look at the variety of things people actually do in all of these activities in order to describe them fully. Wittgenstein rejects any normative goal for philosophy. He denies that philosophy exists to reform actual linguistic practice. Instead, the philosopher should only seek to understand actual linguistic practice, to dispel the confusion caused by thinking about language. Thank you very much.